Good morning, welcome to Ramsbury House on Thursday for more consolation in isolation, in association as before with Puritan soap, clean hands and a pure heart. Well, we know about clean hands. What about a pure heart? Well, in the Psalms we read, "Who shall ascend into the hill of the Lord, or who shall rise up in his holy place? Even he that hath clean hands and a pure heart." In other words, how do we climb the ladder of living well without sliding down the snake of self-righteousness and vanity? A lot of the people who came to see Jesus, often in secret, were those who were outwardly very accomplished. They were the lawyers or the financiers or the spirit religious leaders. But they were those who yet felt trapped within all that they had accomplished. And at the other end of the scale, the people who would turn to Christ were those who had kind of given up that struggle and were considered to be outcasts, the publicans and the sinners, as the old Bible puts it. Those who really just let that all happen to them and not even tried to be good, and yet had found themselves becoming consumed by the very things that they consumed. And so there is a tension within each of us. When we were buying seeds the other day, we bought some sunflower seeds which we've just planted. And if you've ever grown sunflowers, you'll know that they have this remarkable ability, once they grow tall, to both be blown over by the merest gust, but also, and this is their central tendency, to turn towards the light. So as soon as you have, this is a bit like a sunflower here, as soon as the head of the flower has formed, it turns outwards to the sun. It's heliotropic, friends, and has that inbuilt tendency so that even when they get blown over, face flat on the floor, within a few hours, literally, the sunflower will have turned its head up towards the sun. And there's something similar within us, that we long for what is nourishing and good for us. We will do that. It wells up within us, and we've seen that in this crisis, that our desire to live well does come up through us and turns us out to our neighbour in love. But we see an opposite tendency within us, not the sunflower, but the supermarket trolley. What's more frustrating than paying your £1 at Morrison's or wherever and finding that you've got one of those supermarket trolleys that veers over to the left or to the right, and the axle is crooked, and you can't, the more you load into your shopping trolley, the harder it is to steer it on a straight course. I had an old Rover P6 that had a similar kind of tendency with a wonky steering wheel like that, and you constantly try to bring it back, not entirely safe, to what was the right way. And we recognise that in ourselves. We're both sunflowers and supermarket trolleys. St. Paul, who'd been a religious lawyer and knew a thing or two about this, said, "I do not understand my own actions, for I do not do the thing that I want, but I do the very thing I hate. Who will rescue me from this body of sin?" he said, "a body of death." And he understood this deep tension where we end up doing what's bad for us, or even when we do what's right, it kind of turns in on itself. Christians over the centuries and have found the answer to that in the answer that St. Paul gives to his own question, which was that we need grace in our lives. We need actually a new heart and a new start. We need the wherewithal to begin again, like in Les Miserables, where Jean Valjean, when he's still on the run at the beginning, stays the night in the house of a friendly bishop, as it turns out, and decides to make off with the bishop's silver, and is brought back by the authorities, if you recall, and is about to be returned back to the convict ships, and everything has collapsed for him, and the bishop says to the police, thank you for bringing him back. And he turns to Valjean and says, my friend, I'm so glad you came back, because you went off with the cutlery or whatever, but you forgot the candlesticks. Here, have the rest of the silver. And that becomes the hinge of Valjean's life. The rest of the story becomes his attempt to cope with the grace that he'd been shown, unearned, undeserved, is utter clearing of the slate so that he could start again. Each day is a bit like that. The day builds up accretions of things that we might be both proud of and frustrated by and really disappointed in ourselves with. And yet when we begin a new day like this, with the frost-covered grass, and it's like the day has been washed clean again. And that grace of a new start is what is offered to us in Christ. So may God bless you today as you go to ground.